What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Phaithful Phanatics show, brought to you live by DSM Media, and we are streaming to you guys live tonight through DSM Media's Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, and Twitter account. So if you're new to the channel, head on over to our YouTube account and subscribe, hit that like button, turn on notifications, and of course, tap into our Twitter account at DSM_media, and there's a link tree in our bio for all our other social media outlets. What is going on? Long time no see. I guess since the Sixers are back, we'll get to chat with you a little bit more. What to do, boys. NBA season is back. Yes, sir. Welcome to the 76ers season kickoff show. And today I'm joined by my guys, Scotty and Gint, my co-founders here at DSM Media. Give them a follow on Twitter as well, at Scotty Drown and at Matt_McGinty. Fellas, what's going on?
What's going on, man? NBA's back. Last night we had like one good game, but then we got the Saul Durant and Giannis play, so that's always a treat. And then obviously the Sixers get to go tonight, so we'll see how that goes.
Gint is not very optimistic. We'll try to change his tone, but I'll try to change my tone as well. Scott, what's going on? Welcome back to the Phaithful Fanatic Show. This is twice in 1 week for you, dude.
Yeah, man. I've been wanting to connect with my guys at DSM a little bit more, bring the unity from the crew. I feel like I've been, outreaching to everybody but my guys here. So I definitely want to chat with you guys. Obviously, we've had this dismal Eagles season start. So hopefully we can get off to a better start with the Sixers. There's a little bit more to be excited about, but also a lot more drama as well that it's associated with. But last night I was excited. I'm a big NBA fan in general, so I was happy to see the NBA get kicked off. And Giannis looks amazing, to say the least. This dude has grown as a player at an exponential clip every season. It seems like he's adding something new. And then, of course, the Warriors took down the Lakers and Russell Westbrook.
Wow.
Looking suspect.
Wow. Looking suspect. I don't even know if that's the word. Hold on. Russ's debut with the Lakers, 8 points, 4 of 13 from the field, 4 turnovers, and a -26 on the evening.
Yeah, suspect might have been the wrong choice of words there.
Lakers need to just do us a favor and flip Russell Westbrook for Kyrie Irving so that the OKC gang's back together in Brooklyn and LeBron's back with Kyrie.
Oh, that's a great point. That would be awesome, but it was weird, awesome. Man. Especially Steph didn't have the greatest shooting night. He comes out after his first triple-double in like 4 or 5 years and says, I suck tonight or whatever, but the Warriors, see, that was my main takeaway. The whole Russ thing and the fit with the Lakers, that's not – I think they're going to be the best team in the West still. It's one game of 82. But the Warriors – when you see Steph kind of carry that lifeless roster all of last season to a play-in game, and now you see him come out night one on the road in LA versus this juggernaut, he's getting Clay back. That Warriors team is going to be very good again, and I don't think people are really I think people are kind of sleeping on them heading into this season. I don't think they're going to be like a top 3 seed in the West or anything, just because it's so loaded. But they're going to be in the middle of the pack out there, I believe. But let's get into the 76ers, guys. And before we get to tonight's game in New Orleans versus the Pelicans, I want to talk to you about what happened yesterday because I think it needs to be talked about at least for a minute or two. He's got to go. Like, he has to go now. Yesterday, he should have been gone. There's no excuse for it anymore. I was the biggest advocate of you cannot take pennies on the dollar for Ben Simmons. You wait. And maybe it's naive of me to say it now, but you can't have that in the locker room. You can't have that around around this team and bring them down to his level. Obviously, getting kicked out of practice and suspended for tonight's game is what I'm talking about. Again, I'll throw it to you first. I joked around with you on Monday and said, "Oh, you get to say your goodbyes." He's not going out very gracefully. What are your thoughts on what transpired, and are you part of the get him out now?
Yeah, I don't think there's anyone at this point that's not part of get him out now. You can't have that in the locker room. I will say, I think this is exactly what he wants. This is exactly what Rich Paul wants. The media's right outside the door of practice. So you cause a scene of practice, everyone immediately finds out. So he needs to go. Like you said, there's no way around it. He's not handling this like a professional at all. We all go to work every day. Now, you guys might not like your bosses or coworkers. You don't throw a fit. When someone asks you to hop in a drill, you hop in a drill. Ben, I might at this point say was my favorite player, but at this point it's like it's just getting old.
Well, it continues to be a slap in the face, like I talked about, and it's me and you discussed this before. When the day after he came back, it was like, all right, he's back, but if he doesn't want to be here, that takes the advantage away from the 76ers. Now, my issue now, and I'll throw this to you, Scotty, and then you can answer after, is who's going to want this? Like, Ben holding out's a different story. No one knows, like, obviously people hear his side, but, teams are still intrigued. When you hear about this dude just going through the motions at practice and then getting kicked out because he's telling his head coach, no, I'm not doing this drill. I'm not jumping in here. When you see him behind the team huddle dribbling a ball, there were reports that he was dribbling while Doc was the only one speaking. He was just off to the side, dribbling the ball loud as shit. Who our organization's going to look at that and be like, I don't want that near my team? Or are they just still going to be like, I'll take the 25-year-old kid with the ceiling and try to fix him?
Man, it's an interesting question, and it's a hard question to answer in a sense, just because we don't know really what was offered in the first place, like before this happened. So it's like, how far did it drop down since this happened? Because the value dropped down even further after yesterday. And one thing I wanted to say, the Sixers have clearly messed this up. I think we can all agree on that. Ben Simmons also played a part in it. And looking back now, I can see it. I never thought that Ben Simmons would be capable of this level of like disobedience, disruptance, pettiness, like it's one thing to the fans. I get it. Some fans did turn their back years ago on Ben Simmons. Some fans have been dragging him through the mud for years now. And then you have other fans that have ridden beside him, behind him, up until this last playoff series and so on. But to his teammates, that's what really throws me off. That's where you kind of draw the line as far as what you can accept or, as far as bringing him back. As far as his value, I still think there's teams that will take that risk on him. I do. He is 25 years old. As much as we, in Philadelphia focus on negatives, he has a lot of positives. His resume does speak for itself. He is an elite defender in the NBA, but the value does go down. And that's where my concern comes in, because I don't know what the value was at. We've heard rumors of different offers, but we don't know how truthful those are.
Yeah.
And even those offers before, we all thought, right, I'm not taking this deal. Like, we should wait.
The first offer was rumored to be what? Brogdon and a first?
Brogdon and a first. And like, now you better pray that is the case. You know what I mean? Like, you will pray for a guy like Brogdon at this point. But it's a tough situation. Overall, I'm just disappointed with the whole thing. And I just really don't even know what to think, man. I just hope that the Sixers can kind of play through this. I'm hoping that it brings them together chemistry-wise. And just unreal to see this happen with Ben Simmons. I don't know what's going on with him. There's been references to his mental state, that type of thing. So if he's dealing with stuff mentally, I wish he could handle it a little bit differently. If that is the case, or, whatever is going on, if it is lingering back to the James Harden stuff, James Harden's a 2-time MVP, guys. Like, if you're being shopped around for him, that's kind of a compliment in reality. But just so much to look back on. And I don't know really where it got to this. Like, you can see it playing out, right? Like, but there was just part of me, if anybody watched Scotty Talks NBA on Monday, I had Brock Landis on, and I was talking to him. I was like, is there any part of you that feels like maybe he could just, fire Rich Paul and blame it all on Rich Paul, and we can just go back to normal? And that went out the door yesterday. I'm convinced this has all been at this point, to the point where, Rich Paul didn't even know he was showing up at the arena. But I still had that little sense of hope up until yesterday that we could at least potentially play this season and get him back on track, but it does not look like that.
He's coming off as a 25-year-old man-child. That's what he's coming off as. And this comment says, blame to be shared by both parties, but Ben isn't looking great from a PR perspective. Now, you're right to a point. there's blame to be shared for the 76ers on why he's still here. Should you have just pulled the trigger earlier? Should you have taken a trade that might not be available now because you wanted a Lillard or Beal? But in my mind, anymore, after what he's doing, there is no blame on the 76ers for how he's acting. There's blame on why he's still here from them. There's no blame on what went on. Because you've heard it all. You've heard every excuse. You've heard the Doc and Embiid comments. You heard Scotty, you just talked about the trade Harden, the James Harden trade rumors. You heard about the fans. Now the story's coming out that, people are saying this is the one from the beginning, that he, as a former number 1 overall pick, he wanted to go somewhere where he could make mistakes. And since he came to Philly, they were winning right away. So he feels like he can't make those mistakes. And if that's true, come on, man. So I don't want to – there is no blame from the 76ers for how he's acting. There's only blame for him still being here because they haven't handled it the best from that point of view. I saw Gint wanted to jump in. I don't know where he just went.
Where he went.
When he gets back in here,
I did see there's a comment on Twitter. Looks like UG management. I'm a big-time Philly sports fan minus the Sixers. The owner is moving the Sixers to Camden. Book it. Not sure what the reference is there.
It says the real question is why they refused Brogdon, Turner, and 2 first-round draft picks months ago. I don't think Miles Turner was a part of that. I think it was just Brogdon and a first or 2 first.
Yeah, I don't remember Miles Turner being a part of it.
And because it's very simple, you never reject you never accept your first offer. Yeah. And when that's your first offer, you're thinking, wow, this is the floor. Let's see what we can get. And obviously at the time, you're hoping for Damian Lillard to become available or Bradley Beal to become available. And when they weren't, now it kind of has come back to bite you in the ass. But again, I did see you wanted to jump in, so go ahead.
Yeah, just because, you guys watched the broadcast last night because Kenny Smith, Ernie Johnson, all them, were talking about the Ben situation. And they said something I really agree with. And it was, you only hear one side of the story because Ben hasn't said anything in terms of everything that's happened since Game 7, when the buzzer sound. So they said there was fault on both sides after Game 7, but up until yesterday was the point where it's officially okay, now you're doing yourself no good in any way. Your value's going down, but does he care if the value's going down? Is the biggest question. I don't think he does. And when Dylan, you had asked, did it make it worse? Probably for the Sixers standpoint. Ben doesn't care who he gets moved for. He just wants to get moved. But now the issue is Brogdon just got extended. He can't be traded for a year. So Indiana's off the table. Dames hasn't said any word in terms of leaving. If anything, he said.
Actually, he just came out yesterday and said he's not leaving.
Yeah, the total opposite. He doesn't want to go anywhere. Washington has done nothing but try to improve the roster for Beal to get better. Sixers are going to have to really take a look and be like, what can we get now? John Wall's now a realistic option, in my opinion. Harrison Barnes and Marvin Bagley is an option. Things we wouldn't even have considered in the beginning are an option now, which shows a fumble in the Sixers' nature, whether the Sixers fans want to realize it or not. But Ben now, and I don't understand why. When he came back, there had to be a conversation with somebody, and because he talked to Daryl and Doc. Do you think he was I'm not gonna do anything you guys say? Because if you're getting thrown out of practice on day 2, you have to be predetermined. I'm not going to do anything they say. I'm not. There's no way. So you got.
So what were those conversations like? Is what you're saying?
That's what I don't get.
And speaking of conversations, when you hear, I know some people were upset about Embiid's comments after Game 7, but if I was Joel Embiid, I completely 100% back his comments from yesterday, and I kind of love it. We're not going to coddle you, bro. You get thrown out of practice. If you want to talk to me, basically, come talk to me. I'm not going to approach you. You're the one that ghosted everybody. We tried to come out and see you. You haven't spoken to anyone since you've been here. So I'm not a babysitter. I'm not getting paid to babysit you. I'm not going to babysit you. So it's not what we do, right? Apparently, Joel and Tobias have been really good leaders throughout this. That's great. The locker room apparently is still really connected. That's great. One thing I don't like is I don't like hearing from Kai Carlin on Monday how you can tell the vibe is awkward and things are off. I don't like hearing from Embiid and other reports that he hasn't said a word to anybody and blah, blah, blah. And then Seth Curry steps up to the microphone and says, oh, he's just been Ben since he's been back. No, he hasn't. So what? Like, I don't like how you're hearing different players say different things. Not that what Seth Curry said is bad, but don't lie, dude. Like, I don't know if you're lying because you want to keep things fine with Ben, like on a personal level or what. But you, come on, he's just been Ben Les normal since he's back. No, he hasn't.
There wants to be a world where Ben was this antisocial person his whole career, and we just never knew of it.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I know he's not very social, as like you say all the time. Him and Embiid are never gonna be hanging out and everything like that. But Ben doesn't come off as when you see his Instagram and he's out and he's doing this and practice, like he doesn't not talk to his teammates at practice. So whatever. Before we move on, any final thoughts on what happened yesterday? Obviously, I think we're all in agreement that he has to go now.
I just the only thing I wanted to say is like Doc Rivers, like I get you have to be, a certain way to the media, but he just comes off as like completely delusional, given everything that's happened. The fact that he, I get you got to hold out hope, but like I don't know. There's certain questions I just wouldn't answer at this point. I just wonder what their relationship is like as well, for him to, sit in a practice and literally say, no, I'm not doing this drill. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. That usually there's a level of like respect between the coach and the player. And I'm blown away by this situation.
Is there any part of you guys that think he did that because he knew he had to speak to the media at 12 o'clock yesterday?
Well, that's the first conspiracy theory I read was Rich Paul said, do whatever you can to get out of that building. I don't want you talking to anyone tomorrow. Yeah. Which, again, it's a predetermined thing. I think him coming back was, one, to save money, which we all talked about. Two, hopefully to get him out of there quicker. And what's a way to get out quicker? You just pull yourself away from
I was listening to the Missinelli show yesterday after it happened, and he was going over the collective bargaining agreement. Ben can't just keep doing this. So, in other words, like the Sixers, he can't come back, and then the Sixers suspend him another game or two for conduct detrimental to the team, and then he comes back and does the same thing, and they do the same thing. After this time, I don't know if it can happen one more time or whatever it is, but the league then steps in, and the league can suspend him for, let's say, 10 games with no pay, and he does it. So it's not like this. I don't know what his end game is here, because he can't just do what he's doing now, because he will start losing his paychecks again, because you can't just keep getting kicked out of practice. And if you think that Doc and this team are just going to put up with what you're doing and not kick you out of practice so you can get a paycheck, you're delusional as well. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see how this all plays out. Hopefully sooner rather than later. But guys, I wanted to spend like 5 minutes on that, but of course we spent like 19.
Yeah.
Let's get on to the team that wants to be here, and the team that we do have in New Orleans tonight versus the Pelicans. And we'll get into the game a little bit later in the show, but this is our Sixers season kickoff show. So I just want to talk about expectations, rotations, roles, the starting five, Joel Embiid, Tobias Harris, everything like that. Scotty, I did see your list of, I believe it was you with Joel and Toby elevating their games to an even higher level. Or was that Phil?
That was Phil. That was Phil.
So let's start with this. What are your guys' overall expectations for this team? Meaning, where do you think they fall in the landscape of the East? Life without Ben, just everything all together. What do you think they are as a team right now?
Want me to go first?
Yeah, you can go first.
All right.
Doesn't matter to me.
So now, honestly, there's so much up in the air right now. There's so many variances to the way this can play out that it is hard to make predictions for this team right now. Right now, this is purely gut feeling. This is without Ben included. This is with Tyrese Maxey developing it to the point where, we want him to be, given that it is his second year. Matisse Thybulle developing. This is all included in this. But I do have them get into the 4th seed in the East. Basement level, I do have them 5th seed. Top tier level, if they are able to get anything back for Ben, I have them 3 seed in the East. As far as wins, I'm not, too far into like predicting win totals. But if I had to guess, I would say 49 to 51 wins, 31 to 33 losses on the season. As far as expectations for the players individually, I am in agreement with Phil as far as Joel Embiid being in that MVP conversation. I think he's going to be heavily motivated this year, especially with everything that's going on. The other thing that we need to happen, right? We need Matisse Thybulle to, and we'll probably talk about this more in the rotation part, but we need Matisse Thybulle to have improved his offensive game enough to give him a lot more minutes than what he was getting last year. If we're going to be playing without Ben, having Maxey and Seth in your backcourt defensively is not ideal, and you're going to have Matisse playing, whether it's coming off the bench or starting, maybe in Seth's role as a starter at some point in the season. Obviously, it's not going to be in the first couple games, but you need Matisse Thybulle to step up and be that guy. Just hit open threes from time to time. Get up to that 36, 37% from the three-point line. Don't have to ask him to do too much else out there. But then, obviously, we need him to get into that defensive, maybe not defensive player of the year category, but definitely into that all-defensive team area, just like he was last year. He made second team, and that was, maybe 20 minutes a game last season. So if he can get up into that 25, 26-minute mark, he should be able to get into those talks with his defensive ability. Tyrese Maxey. There's a lot that goes into Tyrese Maxey, and I'm trying to really strip down my expectations because I see this Eagles team.
Bro, you're the conductor of this train.
I see this Eagles team, and I'm just like, God, don't make me feel like that. You know what I mean? But Tyrese Maxey, I love his game. I love his motor. That's my favorite part of him is the aggressiveness, the energy that he brings. He's always on a full go. But you do need him to control that to an extent as the point guard for this team. And that's something that we talked about on Monday's show as well, is what is Maxey going to really be in this offense in his new role? Is he a combo guard? Is he a score? Is he a playmaker? Is he a pick and roll guard? We need to find that out. Doc has mentioned he's going to coach him to, not take certain shots away from the other guys that are better shooters. So you got to weigh that out. He's going to go through some growing pains, but I do have high expectations for Maxey. I think by the time we get to that playoff point, Maxey could be comfortable in the offense. Maxey could be a benefactor in those playoffs when he can drive in the lane. He can run the pick and roll with some of our big men. And he simply has the floater, which I think is one of the most dynamic shots in the game that can be used with Joel Embiid and Andre Drummond out there. I do believe Tobias Harris will finally make an all-star team if he can just get up to the 22, 23-point mark. The only factor with that is, does that make Tobias a less efficient basketball player? Because that's not what you want. I would rather have him at the 20-point mark with the same efficiency from last year than going up a few points and just going all the way down in efficiency. And then the team just heavily it's going to rely on chemistry. You cannot fall into these distractions right now. Health, and then, as I mentioned, youth development. Health is a huge one, though. Joel Embiid, without Ben Simmons there, you cannot afford to miss the amount of games that he's missed in the past.
Gint, overall expectations for this team?
Yeah, I like everything you said. I'm kind of around the same spot in terms of seeding, around 4 or 5. I think they're in the second tier of the Eastern Conference right now as constructed, which we don't know what will be in a month. So, but for now, it's kind of where I'll put him. What I will say is this: I'll piggyback off what he was saying about Joel. Joel Embiid's going to have one of the highest usage rates in the NBA this season. It's what's going to happen. When you're listening to everyone talk about the offensive side of the ball, it's Joel. Well, now that Ben's gone on the defensive side of the ball, everyone's like, oh, we have Joel Embiid in the paint. So now you're going to be relying on Joe to, 1, be your number 1 option on offense, and 2, be a premier defensive center, to be Rudy Gobert-esque blocking shots, which he's capable of, but it's going to be a lot. And you're talking about a guy that has missed games in the past, but don't get me wrong, I think Joel's up for the task to be that good. For Tyrese Maxey, I'm not on the same he's amazing train yet. I shouldn't say that. Tyrese Maxey is going to be awesome. I do believe that. Now what we have to run on is how Doc has handled young guards in the past. And I was listening to Brock, our boy, talk last night, and he said Rajon Rondo used to say that every shot he took, Doc used to tell him, that's a shot you're taking away from Paul Pierce. That's a shot you're taking away from Kevin Garnett. That's a shot you're taking away from Ray Allen. So are we going to be in that same kind of boat where it's now you're taking away from Joe, Tobias, and Seth, which is what we saw with Ben last year. when he scored 42, and the first thing Doc said to him was, just remember what your role is here. So that's those two guys. I agree. Tobias, I think he's going to have a really good year. I think he'll be around the same clip he was last year, which was incredible. He should have been an all-star last year. We all know that. Other than that, we'll get into more of the other guys. But if Seth can be what he was in the Atlanta series off the bounce, he'll be incredible this year. He'll be so important. So that's where I'm really at with the 4 or 5. I'm around there, maybe even the 6, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. Go ahead, Scott.
No, I was just going to coattail the Maxey and Doc point. Yeah, and they had some issues last year apparently as well with Doc kind of, or, there's reports that Maxey wasn't taking the Doc's coaching, which is always something that worries you. But yeah, I'm in the same boat with you as far as Doc. I guess my take is that I think Maxey is an incredible talent. I'm just hoping that it can show. But there is that worry that Doc is going to hamper him down and kind of get into his head with those comments that Gint mentioned there.
Yeah, you guys all mentioned great points, and I think everything that you've talked about, whether it's Tyrese Maxey's progression, Joel Embiid being a dominant force, Tobias Harris elevating his game to actual all-star level, even though he should have been one last year, they're all valid and good points, and it's what it's going to take without Ben Simmons and no moves to elevate this team's play. Again, you brought up a very interesting point, though, at the end with Seth Curry, because I said it, after the series and a couple weeks ago to you, was he should. In that Atlanta series, I'm not saying that's what Seth is. Maybe he's not, but he's got a lot more in his bag than I thought he did. You mentioned off the dribble, off the bounce, he was fantastic. If he can provide offense like that around Joe and Tobias, I think that takes his offense to another level, in my opinion. And obviously when you have Tyrese, who's just, who knows what he's going to average this year, but he's a more willing offensive threat than Ben is, not the facilitator. God.
Yeah, I just want to say something that is something to note with Seth was the playbook really bogged down in the Atlanta series. You saw it a lot with like a lot of more of dribble handoffs with Joel and Seth, kind of like what JJ Redick used to do a lot because Ben was a non-factor, like we saw obviously in that Atlanta series. It's going to be really important, I think, if Doc can find ways to get him incorporated in the offense, but it not being stale for the other guys. Like you have to keep other guys engaged. You can't have Matisse Thybulle not touch the ball for 9 possessions and expect them to shoot 37% for threes. It's not going to happen. You got to keep guys in a rhythm. Tobias Harris, obviously. But I think, like you said, Seth's bag is just much bigger than what we thought last year. So hopefully he can step up and kind of give you that little extra 1% that we're talking about without Ben.
1% better every day, baby. But my eyes go to the bench because I think at this point every year we find ourselves with the same concerns about bench depth and scoring off the bench. And it's where we're at again. When you look at the 2 new acquisitions, is it enough? I think they're massive upgrades at those positions off the bench than you had last year. I am super excited to see Andre Drummond in a backup center type of role when you talk about a guy who can average 20 and 15 over a large portion of his career. I love what I've seen from Niang throughout the preseason. Quick trigger. Like hearing Kai Carlin on Monday talk about his basketball IQ and he just knows where to be on both sides of the floor all the time. I think that's huge when you're playing around Joel Embiid. And you hear Niang, I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago, say like they asked what his job was on offense, and he said not to let my guy get in Joe's way. So basically spreading the floor for Joel. But I look at this bench because yes, Ben Simmons, the facilitator, the defender, the playmaker, everything like that on offense, we are going to miss. But we do know his offensive deficiencies. You're still going to get that offense from the starting 5. You're Joe, Toby, Seth, Danny. You're going to even get more offense most likely with Maxey in terms of points per player. What does the bench provide you? How many years now in a row, especially in the playoffs, do we get down and every time 3 or 4 guys coming off the bench, we are holding our breaths for them not to get run out of the gym and just give Joel and the starting 5 a shot when they get back in? That has to change. That cannot continue to be the same mentality year in and year out. Can Drummond be an offensive weapon behind Embiid? Can Niang shoot for and spread the floor as a backup 4? Can Tease take that next step? Can Isaiah Joe and or Furkan find some form of consistency shooting off the bench? One thing that I've mentioned to Ginn a lot about what I would do if I was Doc. Doc's not going to do it. I know he's He loved the starting 5 last year. When they were healthy, they were really good. Ben's not here. I'm just going to plug in my backup point guard. I would start Matisse Thybulle, and I would move Seth Curry to the bench. What you're going to miss, Gint has a point. Defensively, when you take out Ben and put in Maxey, you're going to get hurt on defense. And I'm not saying Matisse Thybulle at this point of his career is Ben Simmons' level of defender, but he was second team all defense. I'd bring him in because he gives you that long, quick wing defender that can take away, that can guard the other team's number one scoring option. He doesn't have to be asked to score the ball off the bench because he's surrounded by Embiid and Danny and Toby and Maxey. Just sit in the corner on the wing, knock down some threes when you can. Reversely, the bench, which needs scoring and shooting, gets Seth Curry. So, and he'll have a lot more room to dig into that bag, Gint, when he's not having to defer to Toby and Joel and be a third option. Seth's going to be a first or second option scorer off the bench. That's just what I would do. Not going to happen unless the starting 5 doesn't look good and Doc has some sort of epiphany. But I think I just want to hear your guys' takes on that because I think it works for both sides. I think the bench and the starting 5 would benefit from it.
I agree with your take. I just wanted to go back to the bench comment earlier because it's amazing how bad the Sixers bench was last year, and it was still the best bench we probably had in like 4 years.
Yeah,
the Sixers bench is just.
But then playoff time in the Atlanta series, they were hard to watch.
No, absolutely. The bench was still bad last year, but like I said, it was amazing because that was one of our better benches of the last 4 years. But to your comment about moving Seth, we talked about this a ton last year, how Doc sticks to his guns. I just don't see it happening. But what I don't really understand is, especially in the beginning of the season with Shake Milton being out, is who is handling the second unit offense. Because I literally don't. I guess it's Isaiah Joe or Furkan, I guess. Like, sheesh. But what this second unit brings is guys that can stretch the floor and stretch it to a deep capacity. Isaiah Joe can shoot the ball from half court. This guy has a nuke of an arm. He could shoot the ball well. Jordan Yang stretches the floor entirely, like you said as well. So the second unit brings shooting depth, which the only one that really doesn't is Matisse, and you kind of hope that he eventually can. So I really do like the bench going in this year for now. And also in a month, maybe we pick up 2 pieces in a trade that make it even more depthful. But in the beginning of the season, I really don't know where this is going to go. In terms of the second unit, I think it could get a little ugly because Andre Drummond, I love the addition. I think he's going to be really solid, but you need some sort of guard that can throw him lobs. I don't want him. I guess he really can, but like back to the basket consistently. Like,
yeah, but you don't want Furk and Drummond running a pick and roll.
No, like who like that's kind of where I'm at because I really like Shake or Maxey getting the ball and it being their unit. I do, but this first couple months, the second unit might really struggle.
Scott, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it is tough. And ideally, Dylan, your idea, I would go with that all the way. I think it just makes the most sense. But as Gint said, Doc is very, I hate to use the word stubborn, but that's what it comes across as. In another ideal situation, I think you would see it staggered as well. Maybe make Maxey the first one to the bench or Seth the first one to the bench out of the starting unit, and then they can come back in as more second unit guys start coming in. Once again, that's not something that Doc does. He doesn't stagger lineups. He loves to do the full rotation, the hockey switches. So ideally, I mean, you would like to see Shake there. He's beat up right now, and that does leave Cork and Isaiah Joe, as Gint mentioned. And I joked around in the group text with you guys today. I was like, you guys are going to hate me, but Isaiah Joe and Korkmaz are competing right now to run that second
moving
unit.
Seth to the bench, Seth provides another ball handler. He's not a point
guard.
But he provides
No. I'm not arguing.
No, I know. There's a comment on Twitter that says, why take out Curry over Danny Green for Matisse? And I just think Danny's better defender in the starting 5.
Yeah.
Seth provides a ball handler that Danny doesn't off the bench. Seth can score off the dribble. Danny cannot. So if Danny's coming off your second unit, who's running your second unit to get Danny Green looks in the corner?
Doesn't solve the issue for the second unit necessarily. Yeah. And the thing about Danny is like, okay, Danny or Seth, I'm going with the guy that's won rings in my starting lineup. I just want that experience out there from the jump. But and I think that's the way Doc would go as well if he did even go that route. Ultimately, I'm not even, sold on Shake Milton as the backup point guard or the starting point guard either. So,
it is man of the year, Shake Milton, Lou Williams. Lou Williams 2.0 under Doc.
No, man, no. If he does it, he has talent. I don't know. He's looked a mess. The whole last season, he was beat up too. But we'll see how that plays out before I put any stock in Shake Milton. But it's the same. It feels like the same exact situation as last year. Even with Ben in the starting lineup, we weren't ready for Maxey to come in and get a lot of minutes, and we just had no backup point guard to run the second unit. And they tried to bring in George Hill. He wasn't very good either. But once again, they are just missing that veteran, prototypical point guard. And you just got to hope that that's something that Ben gets dealt for. But I guess, Shake would cover up the wound a bit. He's at least a ball handler once he gets back. But it is concerning just, if you have to throw Isaiah Joe out there and run the second unit. The one thing I would say, from Joel's comments yesterday, he did say that they are moving the ball a lot better. I don't know if that was necessarily a shot at Ben or whatever the case may be. But if they can run that, I don't know. It is tough. I'm trying to answer it all different ways, but it is tough.
Go again.
I think what the second unit has always lacked as well is a stretch four that legitimately stretches the floor.
Yes.
Because we've never had that, which I think will help Shake or Maxey, whichever one gets the keys to the second unit, because we don't know what's coming back for Ben. Something is coming back for Ben. It might be a point guard. It might be a wing player. So whoever's going to be running the second unit for the long term is going to unlock something the Sixers haven't experienced, which is a guy that can play in the pick and pop, which makes Shake's life a lot easier. It'll make Maxey's life a lot easier. Or you can obviously play in the pick and roll with Andre Drummond, who, again, has been a rebounding leader in the NBA before. He's been a 20 and 15 guy at points in his career. So I don't think the second unit – and especially this is the biggest part as well. If Isaiah Joe is legitimately what he just showed in the preseason – not as good, obviously. He shot like 61% from three or something, I'm pretty sure. That's just not going to happen. That's just realism. But if he is that good and he can come in and actually provide sparks, we're good.
Yeah, and he showed – the thing about Isaiah Joe, he showed like decent ball handling, decent playmaking as well. So that was something that he improved over the offseason, which is what makes you comfortable with actually putting him in the rotation this season, which I hope he gets minutes this year just so he can kind of test it out and feel it out.
I think he will.
Because his deep type of range is, different from just like a Korkmaz that's standing right at the three-point line. That spaces the floor out a whole lot more. But I see what the comments here from YouTube basically saying, put in Maxey on the bench. I think it is ideal for this year. But at the same time, you do kind of like, is that the role that you just want to place Maxey in and have him develop as? Is that that 6-man power punch spark plug off the bench of scoring? Or do you want to try to develop him into your point guard for the future? So I think that's kind of a decision and a line you got to kind of play, closely as far as his development. Because once you get into that Lou Williams feel of coming off the bench, now that's who you are to a sense. And I guess my question is, what is Tyrese Maxey's true ceiling as far as what he can become in the NBA? And do you want to kind of test that out before you just throw him into that role?
I agree with you. I also think there's a role where Maxey's not a point guard at all. No, I shouldn't say at all. He's a combo guard. I mean, but if you watch Lou Williams and the Jamal Crawfords and the guys that have come off the bench and ran second units, they just can get to a bucket, which Tyrese Maxey does, which is why coming into this year, coming into the non-Ben era, I wanted Shake to be the starting point guard. He also gives you a little bit more size in that first unit, which I think helps a lot in that backcourt because, like Scotty mentioned earlier, Maxey and Seth is just a small backcourt against backcourts that aren't small in the NBA at this point. James Harden's your point guard in Brooklyn. Drew Holiday's your point guard in Milwaukee. They're just not little. The only one that's little is Trae Young, and he's really good. So it doesn't really help to have a small backcourt. But I just love him off the bench, doing whatever he wants, not being restricted to pass the ball 4 times before you shoot it, get other guys touches, get Hall of Famers touches. It's this kid is downhill mentality and just get right to the rim. So.
And so maybe you do just let him be him. That's kind of, I'm not disagreeing. I just was kind of throwing it out there, but maybe you do just let him be him and don't put those restrictions on him.
All right. My question now is, we've all kind of tempered our emotions. We've all kind of tried to be a little bit more realistic, and that's great. But are we at a point underestimating 21? Because when I watch now, it's different because Giannis has the ball in his hands a lot more. Giannis actually, plays point forward at times. But when you see his greatness, let's face it, guys, it's game one. I'm not saying that. I think the Nets are still going to win the East if they're healthy. It's only game one. It was ring night. But when you see him with a bench that was beat to hell last night, you have his brother Thanasis playing meaningful minutes next to him. Drew Holiday goes down early, and he still dominates Kevin Durant, James Harden, and that entire Brooklyn Nets team, and it was never really close. Again, one game. But we have who we're hoping is the MVP of the league and was second in MVP voting last year, and we're hoping he takes that next step. Are we underestimating the greatness of Joel Embiid, and can he himself, with the supporting cast, get the Sixers to a 3 seed if Giannis is capable of winning a damn chip with his supporting cast? It's in any world. I'm not saying they're going to go and win a chip because of Joel Embiid, but are we underestimating him carrying this team to a 2 or 3 seed and making kind of a playoff run?
I don't think the word underestimating is fair to use to him because I think he's the most dominant player in the game. I think he's. But
that's kind of my point. We're all in agreement there. But yet we're still saying this team is a 5 seed.
I just think the supporting cast is so little. Like, you even saw, like, Giannis couldn't get over that hump without a third star. They brought in Drew Holiday, and they finally got there. But even that, their role players last year were so vital. Bobby Portis was, like, amazing.
You're right. You're right.
So to me, it's like the supporting cast. It wouldn't be fair to say we're underestimating Joel Embiid as much as the roster is just not good enough right now, in my opinion. A 3 seed, though, he could get that. I think he could. But
I mean, because here's my whole issue. The Hawks are a very good young team, and they beat us last year. I understand that. But before that series where we kicked ourselves in our own ass time and time again and Danny Green goes out, we were thinking championship aspirations. And now we're sitting here a year later, not even a couple months later, saying the Hawks might win more regular season games than the 76ers. The Heat with a Kyle Lowry are going to win more games. The Celtics are being thrown out there. Again, you're right. It's the underestimating isn't the word in terms of his production, but underestimating in our expectations for the team and not giving him the credit of being able to carry a team like Giannis has done, like other guys have done.
Yeah, I think it's more just about all the question marks. Like, in my heart, like, do I feel like Joel Embiid can do that and get us to the 3 seed? I think that is, like, I won't use the term best case scenario. Obviously, best case scenario is they get the 1 seed. But just as far as a realistic ceiling this year, when I say 3 seed as well, or when I say 4 seed, I also mean it as in the Sixers are going to have some hiccups, some growing pains in the regular season. And they might end up being better than the 3 or the 4 seed, even at the 5 seed by the time we get to the playoffs. Maxey may have settled in by then. Matisse Thybulle may have settled in by then. Whoever you trade for may have gotten comfortable with the team by then. So the regular season, I guess, is not holding as much weight to me as it was last year when we were so hell-bent on that 1 seed, and that's all that mattered. We wanted to win the East in the regular season. And we ended up losing to a 4 or 5 seed last year in the Atlanta Hawks. But as far as Embiid's capabilities, I mean, the sky's the limit with this guy. He is the most dominant, and he's one of the biggest players in the NBA. But on top of it, his skill level is just at a ridiculous, at a pinnacle right now. And I do think that he can be even better than last season. There's just so many question marks, and I think that we were humbled, honestly. I think that's what happened. In that Atlanta series, I think we got humbled last season in the playoffs, and now it's hard to build that back up when you lose an all-star in Ben Simmons a defensive player of the year candidate. It's hard to realistically say that. But the truth is we really just haven't seen Joel Embiid without Ben for that long. You know what I mean? So he could come out. The team could be better without Ben. That is a possibility. Do I believe that? I'm not sure. But as far as, answering your question, I'm not trying to underrate Embiid. Just really a lot of question marks with the team. I think it relies a lot on what is elsewhere. And that does come from, part of it is Embiid being a center, being a big man.
Right.
He doesn't have the ball handling responsibilities that a Giannis or a LeBron, that type of player would have. So it is hard to measure what you can truly do with a big man as your best player as well.
I think also recency bias kicks in heavy with the Sixers. Because you look at these teams and what they added. Like Atlanta brings back DeAndre Hunter, who was having a great year up until last year. Miami added Lowry, PJ Tucker, Markieff Morris. They added a handful of guys. Boston added Dennis Schroeder. They got Al Horford back. They got Josh Richardson. All these teams added guys. And don't get me wrong, the Sixers made additions. They got Drummond. They got like George Niang, but not many household NBA names where teams casual NBA fans are kind of freaking out saying these teams better. Obviously, Chicago loaded up, grabbed a couple guys. So recency bias kicks in, and they might get hit with a reality check tonight if Embiid goes for 37 and 21 and we win by 15. So,
hell yeah. Well, let's do that, guys. Let's get into tonight's matchup in New Orleans versus the Pelicans before we wrap this show up. Obviously, no Zion Williamson tonight for New Orleans. Lonzo Ball, as Gint just mentioned, as in a move, is with the Chicago Bulls now. What are your guys' thoughts going into tonight's game? I'd love to, game one, I'd love to say, what's it going to take for the Sixers to get a win? Keys to victory. I just don't think the Pelicans have enough. They're just, again, this is new to us. We don't really know what to expect from this new Sixers look. However, they shouldn't lose to New Orleans Pelicans on the road. It just shouldn't happen. So the Sixers have to stop this. Pelicans just aren't good enough, in my opinion. So that's it. Go beat a team you're supposed to beat.
Last time we did a Sixers pregame show, and we said that Sixers lost to Atlanta. I just think there's so much going on right now. I'm not chalking up any game to be a W immediately until we see it happen. I still like what the Pelicans have. They got Devontae Graham, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Brandon Ingram, Jonas Valanciunas. They got guys that can play. They're at home on opening night. So you're right in essence of on paper. You say, wow, that's not a lot. But it's a new regime. Who's guarding their wings? Who's guarding Brandon Ingram? Who are you throwing at Devontae Graham? There's a lot of ifs with the Sixers right now until you see the regime play post-Ben. So
now, let me ask you guys this real quick since you just brought that up, Gint, because it's a great point. And I think it's kind of why we're so hesitant to be overly excited. It's so new. It's just one player. That's it. One guy's gone. But it's going to make that much of an effect of how this offense is going to be ran and looked. How excited are you guys to see this new look team? Gint, I know for you it's going to be weird and probably a little painful at first because it's going to hurt. But are you at all excited to see, this team and Joel Embiid with Tyrese Maxey running point and the new regime, so to speak?
I don't want to use the word excited. I'm excited for basketball to be back. So that's kind of where excitement kicks in. But I don't know.
See, this is upsetting me because I'm kind of with you. I'm excited, but I'm not overly eager thinking that this is a team that can go and win a championship like I was last year. And I want to find a way. I hope tonight shows us something. Again, it's only one game against the Pelicans, but I want something to hold, to grab onto that can propel me to, okay, you know what? Joel Embiid can carry this goddamn team. I hate this feeling. We went from such a high last year, the number one seed, let's go win a chip. And now it's
it's just tough to be excited because this isn't going to be the roster. People are coming in. He's being moved.
Yeah.
So right now there's not really an expectation of this is the team we're going to have. Even when the Sixers were going to win 11 games, we all were excited to watch the season. There was a sense of excitement. Just right now, don't get me wrong, I love basketball, so I'm excited for it to be back. But I guess Tyrese Maxey is really the only person I'm wow, I can't wait to watch to see what he can do because we know Embiid's going to get 35 and 20. Tobias Harris is going to drop 26 points on 50% shooting. But other than that.
Yeah, I just to kind of coattail, Tyrese Maxey is probably the one player that I'm just so excited to see play, and you'll see him go through growing pains as well. So that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I think tonight, I think the Sixers should be fine. All my keys to victory, I did write some down. They all have to do with the Sixers not shooting themselves in the foot. But, as the season drags on, they play the Nets at home on Friday. I'm more excited about the finished product than I am about the team right now is what I'm basically saying. I think they're going to get to a point where they're going to be a contender this season, but I just don't know, how this first part of the season is going to go. Yeah, Adam has high expectations for tonight. That would be a great way to kick off the season. But, the one thing that is really worrying me with this team, I know everybody talks about Ben's, defensive presence. The thing that worries me is the facilitation. You hope that they're able to move the ball around and that it's more of just a team game at this point, rather than one person dishing it around. But the facilitation and turnovers, Tyrese Maxey is a young guard. He is talented. He is always on go. Foot's always on the gas. That can turn into big turnover nights, bad shot selection. So I just want to see it for I want to see it with my own eyes before I, come out here and just say the Sixers are going to blow the doors off the place. But as far as the Pelicans, no Zion. Somebody said that in the comments as well. The key is Zion not playing tonight. And I did see in the Twitter comments, New Orleans has their own drama going on, within the Zion realm as well. They're trying to keep him in town. So there's a lot going on down there as well. I do think we take care of business against New Orleans tonight, although I don't know if this is like a true barometer game for us. I don't think we should be basing the expectations off of it. But
no, game one against anybody is no barometer, especially in New Orleans versus the Pelicans with no Zion Williamson. But you brought up the Brooklyn game, and I just started laughing. I'm telling Gint, I'll let them win that game Friday. They beat the Nets, and here I come on Monday, baby.
Oh, my goodness.
Here I come. That's it. You want me to grab onto something? You want me to say, they're back? Don't let them beat the Brooklyn Nets.
If they beat Brooklyn, they're trading Ben for a second-round pick.
If they beat Brooklyn on Friday, then here comes the lofty expectations before anything even gets started.
I'm going to lose to Detroit.
Don't get me wrong, I'll be super excited, but
we'll lose to Detroit on Monday right after.
You'll have them losing to a team like the Cavs, and Tyrese Maxey turns the ball over a bunch, only has 9 points, and everybody's like, what is happening? We're missing Ben. But no, I think everybody just needs to take it with a grain of salt. This team is going to go through growing pains at some point. They got to learn how to play together and how to fill that huge void that was Ben Simmons. That's not necessarily a negative thing, though.
Let me ask you guys this. Two-parter. First of all, I shouldn't say the first one's not a question, but the biggest thing with the Ben facilitating thing is one guy's not going to get it done. It's got to come from Joel. It has to come from Tobias. It has to come from Tyrese. Everyone kind of has to just play make a little bit more and get Danny Green shots, get Matisse Thybulle some clean looks. Like, that's what you're really going to be missing out of Ben with that. And the second part, because I got to jump off here. But do you guys think he plays Friday?
No.
Because Doc said it was one day. Doc said he's suspended Wednesday. He's supposed to be back in practice tomorrow.
There's so many underlying questions with it because it's like if he is on the active roster, does he start? Do you just insert him over those guys and be like, screw you that have been practicing all training camp?
Isaiah Jones shot 61% in the preseason. He's going to get a DNP coach's decision by game 2 because Ben's back.
Because Ben Simmons. But it's like, man, that would be a great game to showcase Ben Simmons' talents if he wants to play that night. You could put it on full display, national game or, primetime game Friday night against the Brooklyn Nets in Philly. Be a great game to, showcase Ben Simmons. But I just answered my own question. It's the first home game. There's no shot in hell.
So Rich Paul will have him get kicked out of the practice.
Will not allow that.
5 minutes into Thursday before he plays Friday night.
So again, before you jump out of here, I need predictions for tonight, and also you've been watching some puck?
No, dude. Are you
Come
serious?
on.
With this going on, you think I'm watching hockey? Come on, man. You got to be realistic with yourself here.
I mean,
if you get intern Dave back, I'll start watching hockey.
I mean, you're missing out on the best team in the city right now, but all right.
I saw they won 6-1 and that one dude got in a fight and he was destroying that other
guy. My girl tagged me on Twitter and was like, wow. That fight. We got more hockey games.
Oh yeah. Again, predictions for Sixers Pelicans.
I'm going to take them to win. I'm not going to be that fan. I'm going to take them to win 108-101. Kind of close.
By the way, we forgot about this. Player of the game. Everyone has to pick a player of the game.
And it can't be Joe.
We only allow Joe on evenly based matchups.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Seth Curry. Seth Curry, 4+ threes. Sixers win by 7. Josh Hart gets 12 rebounds.
Had to throw in a Villanova plug. Jesus Christ. All right. So Gint's got Sixers by 7. Seth Curry as his Phaithful Phanatics player of the game. Scotty's got the Sixers winning. Who's your player of the game?
This is tough, man. I don't want to be typical and select Toby. You know, I think Maxey takes advantage of his opportunity tonight. I think he has a good game. Shows that he can play the role. But it will also set the fan base up with lofty expectations of the future. And there will be some point in the season where the fan base is questioning Maxey. But I think tonight he comes out, he's excited, he's in that starting role, and he puts his foot on the gas against a team that's just not as good as the Sixers.
All right, Adam says Danny Green, player of the game, 20 points. Adam, if you firmly believe that, if you believe that, head on over to DraftKings. Not DraftKings, FanDuel, because Danny Green to score 15+ points tonight is a plus 1280. So go hit that up. Couple of big threes from Danny Green, and you might make yourself a couple dollars there. But yeah, I'm going to go to Sixers win. It didn't matter if they were playing the Bucks opening night. I'm not going against the 76ers, but I do know with all this Ben drama going on, I'm going to hope. See, I'm going to relate it to a different team with drama. So on Sunday for Turf Talk, Scott, my upset of the week was the Raiders. First game after the John Gruden incident and everything going on there. I thought, everyone, the Broncos were favored. I thought the Raiders are going to take this and it's going to bring them closer together and they're going to go win a game. They did. I think that this locker room is too mature, too tight, too together for Ben Simmons' antics in practice to break them up. I think they have a chip on their shoulder. I firmly believe, I don't care if it's cliche, that Joel Embiid has some sort of chip on his shoulder with throughout all of this going on. And I think he comes out and dominates. Obviously, I can't pick JoJo as my Phaithful Fanatic player of the game. So I'm going to go with I think I'm going to have to agree with Scott. I'm not taking anyone off the bench. Yeah, I'm not taking Furkan.
Who knows? Joe might come out there shining, man.
I think Joe dominates. I think he's really obviously the biggest part of this game. But I think Tyrese Maxey, like Scott said, is excited. He's ready for the moment. It's not the Bucks or the Nets or the Heat or anything. It's the New Orleans Pelicans.
Is Jaden Springer active tonight?
I
think he is, right? I don't think he's on the injury report.
I don't know.
What if we see that horrible first-round pick?
I think Shake and Ben were the only inactives. I think.
What if we see that horrible first-round pick? Oh man, we're not getting into that before we wrap up. But I got the Sixers, and I'm going to go with Tyrese Maxey as my player of the game. Gint, Flyers play the Bruins tonight. Who you got?
The Bruins.
I might have to put point.
Is that 7-footer defenseman still on the Bruins, or did he retire?
Zdeno Chara?
Yeah.
He's not with the Bruins anymore now.
Is he still in the NHL?
He was last year, but I don't think he is anymore.
I know him. Yeah, I know my hockey, man.
I know my puck. I might have to put a player performance and game bet on the line where the Flyers win and Scott Lawton anytime goal scorer, because that's my boy.
That is your boy. Hat-trick on your birthday.
Hat-trick on the birthday. All right, guys, that's going to wrap up this episode of the Phaithful Phanatics. And of course, the Phaithful Phanatics is streaming to you guys live through DSM Media, which is now proud to be sponsored by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped just launched their 4th-generation trimmer, the Lawnmower 4.0. You heard that right, the 4.0. Join over 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you. 20% off with free worldwide shipping with our code DSM at manscaped.com. Manscaped engineered the ultimate groin and body trimmer by focusing on intelligent functionality and an incredibly comfortable grooming experience. Their 4th-generation trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. This upgraded trimmer includes a multi-function on and off switch that can engage a travel lock. It also gives you the ability to turn the 4000K LED spotlight on and off when needed for a more precise shave. And did I mention the wireless charging? The new wireless charging system uses electromagnetic induction, which can help battery length last longer. Get 20% off and free shipping with code DSM at manscaped.com. Again, that's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com using our promo code DSM. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. Your balls will thank you. And if only I had someone next to me as excited as Brock Landis was last night on Scotty Talks, or 2 nights ago on Scotty Talks during the ad read, because my man was all in for the Manscaped ad read.
Hey, Manscaped, I'll say it again. Manscaped does have some of the best products. I had never used them before. We got, some of their products through this sponsorship, and it is some of the best stuff that I've ever had. The boxers are comfortable as hell. The T-shirt is comfortable as hell. And it even says your balls will thank you on it, which is an awesome shirt to walk around in. And, the Lawnmower 4.0, that thing, I mean, no shave bumps.
We still got to get everyone's girlfriends and wives from Team DSM to make that commercial that we're talking together, Scott. All right, that's going to wrap up this episode of the Phaithful Phanatics Show. Flyers at 5:30 at home, at 7:30 at home. No, what? First of all, we're talking about them this year because they're the best team. Like, you're going to have to watch your puck, okay? All right.
I mean, if it's on at 5:30, I'll take a peek.
It's not 5:30. I meant 7:30.
If it's on at 5:30, I'll bid.
I meant 7:30.
I'd rather watch St. Joe's versus.
Guys, I'm putting out a flyer for a new co-host here on the Phaithful Phanatics Show. So anyone who's interested in joining my podcast, feel free, because Gint just lost his hockey card, unless I get intern Dave back. But that's good. Flyers at 7:30 versus the Bruins at home. Sixers 8 p.m. in New Orleans versus the Pelicans. Have a great Philadelphia sports night. And as always, tap into DSM Media on Twitter at DSM_media. See you guys.